Um, Okay, so that's working now. Maybe. All right. Hopefully, y'all will find me in here. I'm gonna keep sewing this next part together. You can see me again. I don't know what was going on. Sometimes I think things just go screwy. So hopefully you can see me. I haven't got that far. I'm sewing the part I was pinning at the 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's about where I'm at. So I will move it over to the sewing machine. So hopefully that will fix the issue. Like I said, I sew from the exterior because we've already got the 1/4 inch seam allowance. But yes, I can see you again. I had to go pull actually chat to y'all so you knew I was still here. So like I said, we're just going around this. We are going to finish this bag today, even if it takes a little bit longer. Tomorrow I plan on sleeping in because tomorrow I will be sleeping in. I probably still sew because I enjoy sewing, but I'm gonna take it easy. Basically, you can go to my back to my channel and find the live, and that's usually the easiest way to do it. So if that happens in the future, if I say I'm going to reboot, that's usually the best way to do it. Like I said, almost done sewing what I was pinning when things kind of went off. Apparently, my Alexa is trying to communicate. So I am actually reaching in here and moving my zipper pulls out of the way as I get to them. And so this is why I sew from this side so that I can actually follow the seam so that when I flip it inside out, I go, oh, all my seams were caught and everything like that. So, because sometimes if you sew from the other side, you're not going to catch everything or it may not be caught at the same exact spot. But I'm glad you found me back again, Melody, after the first one kind of crashed. But we are going to flip this inside out in just a minute. We are almost around all the way. Making sure everything lays flat. Come on, pin being out of the way. One thing we can do is after we do that, we make sure we haven't had any weird catches in the fabric or anything like that. So if you look, everything looks good. So now what we're going to do, just to show you, flip it back this way because it's a little hard to do it in that window. So we have our zipper pocket. We are going to pull. I guess that works. Give me a like for this one and the other one, since it's going to basically be in two parts. And I will put that as part two for this week. I will label that once I'm done for tonight. So, but we are taking it and we are turning it right side out through that zipper pocket. So we're pulling all the inside, what was on the front of our bag, through that little zipper pocket. That's why you need to make sure you leave a big enough hole to turn. That's why in my zipper pocket, I just go barely around the corner so that it holds that seam. So we are pushing it all the way through. All right. So, but I will label it for the other as well. He said, I pulled up my, I don't usually watch myself, but I pulled it up so I could actually make sure it's still running. So at least till my laptop dies because it needs to be plugged in. All right. So now we've pushed everything in. I will push everything out. So here's my zipper pocket that I had used to push everything out. Now we are going to top stitch. We're not going to top stitch all the way around. You could. See, make sure all your seams lay flat and everything like that. See? But we are going to take and we are going to top stitch using an 1/8 inch seam allowance right at the zipper to make sure that lays nice, good, and flat. Now, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and do it all the way around, and I probably will, just because I like the looks of it. Little thread that snuck its way through the seam. So I'm double checking I've pushed everything out, and I'm going to top stitch. And since I like to, as I've said before, I like to start down at the bottom because you're less likely to see it, find little threads that in your the fraying of your fabric and everything likes to stick in that seam allowance. That's what I was down here checking. But I'm going to top stitch all the way around, and it's not going to be very visible because I'm using the navy thread, and that's kind of why I do. So I'm going to move it back over, and we're going to top stitch all the way around with an inch seam allowance. So I'm actually going to push all my fabric like this, so it lays good and flat, like this. And I'm going to put my needle down in the machine. Okay. So I'm going to start down at the bottom. Now, the pattern actually just says to do it at the zipper panel. Doesn't really matter one way or the other. I just like the finished look it gives when you top stitch through all the layers all the way around, not just at the zipper panel. So that's a personal preference of mine. So I'm making sure to pull it taut so that everything's nice and flush. But I'm just top stitching at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I said this is why in this pattern I will actually a lot of times use a con coordinating thread so that it's not seen as much. You don't see all stitching everywhere. I said more thread that just randomly pops out. Hi, Annette. Welcome. Okay, that was a weird comment about the train station. Nothing to do with what we're talking about in sewing. I'll tell you right now. This is our last part of the any zippers in this bag. And those zippers don't cause me issues. I'm always glad when I'm done with all the zippers for a bag. especially when you're having to go sew around those curves and everything. I'm moving zipper pulls out of the way again. Understand. That was a very about licking a railroad. I was like, some sometimes you get some very random people on your videos. Trust me. Sad to say that's not the weirdest comment I've ever had come on. It's a little disturbing, but we're glad to see you in it. Glad to have you join the I guess the chaos den today. And another thread that snuck through the seam. That's the only thing about woven fabrics. They like to fray, and so sometimes you get little random little tails of threads that go sneak into the seams. I thought I called them all. Apparently, I missed one. So we are now all the way around. Make sure you back stick. I'm fascinated with feet. That's amusing. Luckily, in my pattern group, I've seen a lot of things in pattern group, but luckily, I've not had any really random stuff appear in my pattern group. In other groups I've been parts of, but not so much mine, at least at the moment. All right, so just to show, we have top stitch the front panel. So as you can see, we top stitched all the way around. So now what's left? If you notice, we're actually going to go ahead and we don't need this open anymore. We're going to close up our zipper pocket, our interior zipper pocket. And the best way I have found to do that is I will actually fold it down the seam allowance. You can take it over and press it and everything too. I'm going to actually poke out my corners so I can kind of see where I'm at. Yeah, so if we go a little long today, it's just so we can get done. And then I have a brand new bag to use on my birthday tomorrow. So like I said, this is my favorite Star Wars character. So I'm looking forward to using this, plus having it for most of the month of July to use. So when I don't always pin it, but I like to like do a couple pins here or there when I pin a pocket closed. But see, we're done turning through this pocket, so we can go ahead and stitch it closed. And before we add the rest of the bulk of the bag, trust me, you're going to want to. So we're going to go ahead and close this. I believe that's right. Okay. I was just double checking that I wasn't supposed to leave this open. I'm not. Go ahead and close this. And I actually, thank you, Mel. I said the new bag pattern coming out. And I said right now my plan is for July 10th, and my testers already have it. It is a humongous bag, and I'll show you. It is a tote bag, but I do stuff a little differently than some of the ones. No, I was having. So now we can tuck that pocket back in, and that's all sealed up. So now what we're gonna do, more pinning, just to tell you. So we are going. I'm gonna set you down right. Set the bag down right there. I'm gonna flip you around again, so at least you know I'm not. I'm here. Let's find that spot that I found that thread. Did I get it all? Yeah, I did. All right. So what you're gonna do here, so the front of your bag is done. So if you want to see, this is what the inside the bag looks like, and that's the outside. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to make sure this is unzipped. Now this time you have to make sure it's unzipped. We are going to separate our lining and our exterior on the gusset or zipper panel. Well, I use the fancy fabric on the inside because my bag, and I do that for customers as well. But this is my bag, so I wanted the fancy stuff on the inside. But so we've got it separated. So here's our exterior and here's our interior. So basically, at this point, this is comparatively sewing with the zipper. This is easy. We match our centers, front and back. This is my exterior because this is, remember, this is our exterior pocket. Biggest thing here right now. Make sure that's unzipped because this pocket here is where we're going to turn the bag. So we're going to go ahead and pin this and we're going to sew it together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then we will do the same for the lining as well. And I just pin one at a time, mainly because um, sometimes they'll get in the way of each other or get caught on each other. But like I said, when I do this, I pin my top and bottom, then I pin my uh, what is I can't even talk, uh, sides, and then I go around all the way around. Now this won't take me as long as pin because no zipper tape. And yes, I do. Yes, I use real pins. These are actually quilting pins. I love them because I love the length. If I'm not using vinyl, I use pins a lot. If not, I have my little dragon that guards my clips if I'm using vinyl. So I have my little dragon that guards my clips. So I do use clips too, but I'm one who likes pins. If I'm using woven, I use pins. But mainly because if I'm using vinyl, I'll use clips, I'll use staples. Yeah, it's I'll have to figure out. I don't remember the website. I have to pull it up. Somebody in the sewing community had them. Her son made them, 3D printed them. They had turtles, and yes, I know I'm sewing turtle boutique, and I thought about the turtle because it actually had a lid. But as much as I like turtles, I also love dragons. And of course, when you have a gradient dragon, I couldn't turn it down. So the dragon won out on that, and it was cuter than the sleeping dragon was cuter than the turtle. But they had cats and lots of other different shapes and stuff. If I can remember, I'll post it in the comments later. But okay, like I said, this pins goes a lot faster, mainly because you don't have all the. I use staples a lot. I use, hold on. I have a little Tim Holtz mini stapler right here. I love it, especially like vinyl bags. And then I use my little handy dandy staple remover. So I use staples all the time in my bag, especially if I've got vinyl because clips don't clips like to go flying. That's how I know. I've had them fly at my face before while I've been sewing. So I still use clips a lot, especially in my own like patterns and stuff. But I will actually use actually a combination sometimes of staples and clips. So, um, the biggest thing with staples, keep them in your seam allowance. So if your seam allowance is a quarter inch, staple it about an eighth of an inch. And yeah, the Tim Holtz mini stapler is awesome. Um, that's the biggest thing. And make sure you take your staples out. There's nothing wrong with using staples. I've used staples for a few years now, especially with vinyl bags. Like I said, they like to shift. They like to be annoying just because they can. That's the best way to put it. And they like to shift. Sometimes some vinyls are very slippery, and clips just don't hold them well enough. Or sometimes if you put clips on, that'll leave. If it's a softer vinyl. Oh, I have those too. I mean, these I have different sizes of these too. This is my bigger ones, and I have some itty bitty ones and some medium sized ones, and I have rainbow and blue. So those are actually great if you don't want to leave imprints on your vinyl, and they do work better. But sometimes as far as the regular clips, actually are stronger usually than those. So like I said, I use a mix: clips, pins, whatever I'm in the guess in the mood for, or the material calls for. I'm actually going to be cutting out a messenger bag tomorrow. Uh, so almost done pinning, as you can see. And like I said, you can pin both at the same time, the lining and the exterior. But I find I end up getting poked by extra pins if I do that. So I don't. That's just my own personal preference. Yeah, I get my metal clips like that from Social Therapy. Losing my glasses down my nose. Annette, did that duffel bag work for you? The Tribbiani? Okay, so we have our exterior pin. So this is our exterior because this is our exterior zipper pocket. There's still our interior. So we're going to take this and lay it flat against the bed and sew all the way around. Now the difference here, we're going to use a quarter inch. When we attach the lining, we're actually going to use a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I will switch all over to the machine again. Now that's so the reason why a lot of times pattern designers will have you do a smaller seam allowance for the lining is that it fits more snugly inside your bag. If it's sewn at the same exact size, then a lot of times it will sag and all that. If you sew it an eighth of an inch smaller, it will fit more snugly in there and won't be an issue. Like I said, that's a great pattern, the Tribbiani. So hopefully that will go well for you. I've made several of them. When the So Magical expo was going on, when I went down there for that about 4 years ago, I made one for myself for that. That was a stitch sewing one for some catching threads. There we go. My foot was getting caught up on some of these extra threads. Okay, there we go. But we're gonna, like I said, this goes and sews a lot faster, mainly because you don't have zipper tape, you don't have weird things in the curves, and you don't have pulls you're sewing around. So even though you have curves, it's easier to sew than the other pattern. See, we're already halfway around. Only place I kind of slow down on is on the curves. Now, if you've ever sewn So Sweetness, if you put together the perk sling, it actually how it's attaching the lining is very similar. Now that pattern I've probably sewn a good 20 or 30 times. So that's what I said. This is not a new to me how she puts together her lining and her exterior separately and then basically tucks one down inside of the other. Um Actually when I first started sewing bags, So Sweetness were some of the first ones I sewed. Sounds like the opposite of me in it. I've been sewing bags. Well, I've been sewing for about 16 years, bags for about mm, 8 or so. And I've recently started quilting mainly to make quilted bags, but I've actually got an order for everything, a place for everything 2.0 out of some really cool rainbow sewing fabric. Okay, okay, so we have our exterior sewn. So just so you can see, here's our complete exterior right there before we sew our lining. Make sure before attach the other one that I've got any random threads that came through the seam the last time that I missed. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to pin this together. Make sure you're putting it right side up. So now I have my mesh pocket. Doesn't matter if this is unzipped or zipped. So just so you can see, it is a fully encompassed bag. She Sarah does very good, and if you pay the little bit extra, she includes the videos as well. Um, Hers are very well done instructions. But yeah, I started with both So Sweetness and Ora Rosa patterns. I'm in love with the Magdalena. That's one of my favorite bags to make, which is the circle bag. I've made so many different variations. I've made Pokemon out of it. I've made Pokeballs. I've made several custom anime bags out of it. And then I've just made the regular Magdalena. So depends on what my customers want. One more quarter. Okay, so when we attach the lining, let's make sure we're not getting some random. Where is my quarter mark? Right there. It's like, where's my center mark there? It's hiding from me. Yeah, and the last Well, I've been making some of my own patterns for years. Basically, if I didn't see a pattern out there that I liked, I made one up. So I actually have a repertoire of patterns um up my arsenal. I've watched a little Olka Roots, but I was way into bag making long before that. Actually, a lot of my bag making orders picked up during the pandemic. But I've been sewing project bags for a long time for a lot of my cross stitch companies, cross stitch shops. I sell a lot of those wholesale. My stow and go pattern. Do a lot of those for cross stitch shops all over the country. So I've probably sewn somewhere between 3 and 5,000 of those bags in the last 6, 7 years. Oh, that's cool. I want to quilt more. I just don't have time between orders and stuff like that. Because I do a lot of embroidered items as well. I test for string theory, fabric arts, and so I do a lot of stuff for her, as well as I have a lot of local shows and stuff. I do keychains and stuff for. So depending on how you know me, I'm either known as the keychain lady or the bag lady. So just depends. Most people local. Big thing with the pandemic is I refused to sew masks except for what I absolutely needed. I did not. I had several people ask me if I sold them, and I went no. There, I sewed some for our family, and that's about it. Because at that time, my younger daughter was going through cancer treatments, so we had to have them for her, especially. Oh wow, that's a lot of quilt tops. I give you props. My biggest thing has been a quilted wall hanging or the quilted bags I've made, like the place for everything. I've made a couple of those. I don't have an industrial. I have a semi-industrial, the Juki 18 QVP. I've been using that for about 5 years now. Basically, I had to upgrade after I killed my second domestic machine. I made it for my immediate family and my in-laws and my parents, and that was about it. I didn't make them for anybody else except for one other friend who was one of my husband's coworkers, who's a close friend, and that was about it. And that's the only person I actually made and sold them to. But I was busy because my daughter got diagnosed with cancer right at the beginning of COVID, so I was always busy with her. But I kept myself busy with project bags. Put it that way, put it mildly. And when I say I'm always busy with project bags, I've got another stack of them that are about halfway done over here. She's doing good. She's in remission, has been for about 4 years. So if I can show you, when I say I have a stack of project bags right here of the Stow and Go, I have both the size that I offer plus a larger size. and then two different ones. That's about 33 bags right there. And I just sent 33 to her at the beginning of June. So, all right, so we have our lining pinned. Now we're going to go and stitch this using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, whereas the exterior we sewed with a um, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And this will allow your lining to fit more snugly down in your bag. So we'll take it to the machine, and then there's one more step before we flip it inside out, and then we'll be about done. Okay. And then I will give y'all a first glimpse at the new pattern. I said it's coming out in about 2.5 weeks. July 10th is the planned thing. So far, I've not had any big snafus with testers. So I'm still assuming that's going to be a workable timetable. So, and that for a beginner bag maker, this is probably the easiest pattern I have released. So you should have no trouble whatsoever. And thanks for saying about being glad she's in remission. She's doing really good. She's super, super smart. She wants to says she wants to be an anesthesiologist when she grows up. And I think that's partially impacted by how much she was in the hospital and how many times she had to use anesthesia for treatment and stuff. She for the longest time she called them sleepy doctors, but now she calls them what they are. So going around. It's a little more difficult to get around here because of having, of course, this here in the way. Going little by little around our corner, just so to make sure all our seams lay flat, don't have any really weird gaps or anything like that. But what's good about this is the your lining, so if you do end up with a wrinkle, who's going to notice it? My other daughter wants to go into video game design. She's getting ready to start her senior year, which means she has 2 more years left to high school because she goes to one of the early college programs where she comes out with her high school diploma and an associate's degree. But she decided to add one more onto that and will also come out with her graphic design. So, two very intelligent girls. Right, we're almost done, about halfway around the lining. Yeah, if I could just get them to stop bickering at each other, that would be a lot more helpful. That age difference definitely plays a part in it. Hey, we're almost done. Basically, we just got a little bit left. Gotta get around this last curve. And then there's one more step before we flip it inside out. That sits so much better inside. Oh, that sounds interesting. I just have a younger brother. He's a nurse. He's 6.5 years younger than me, but we live across the state from each other. So, okay, so you see that we have sewn the lining. So at the top and bottom, what you're actually going to do, you're going to pin your lining and the exterior together just at the top and bottom, not at the sides, just at the top and bottom. And this is partially to help you turn it. And so I'm going to pin it together, and we're going to sew these together at an eighth of an inch. And this is in her instructions. So just in case you're wondering, this is not just a me thing. This is actually how I learned to do this. And this kind of flattens it. It kind of keeps them together when you turn it. And we're going to do this at the top and the bottom. And the biggest thing here is that you tuck down the seam in the middle so you don't accidentally sew it. And we're just pinning that together, just a couple pins. Yeah, I left to go to school when my brother was 9 years old. So we bickered a lot growing up. But once I went off, it wasn't as much because we weren't around each other. Okay. So we have this just to show you. I've pinned it at top and bottom. And apparently, I'm hitting myself with my pencil. And what we're going to sew it together as about an eighth of an inch seam allowance here. And this is just to kind of connect the two, makes it easier to turn them. It helps keep it together. But you're basically sewing inside your seam allowance of your exterior. And I'm not taking out my pins until I get done sewing across. And you're only sewing around the flat parts. You're not going into the curve or anything like that. Oh, wow. Yeah, mine are about almost 9 years apart in age, so it makes a difference. So it's more like, well, you should know how to do this from the older one. And the other one's like, but I don't. So, and I deal with the older one dealing with hormones and stuff like that, and the other one's not. So she doesn't understand and gets on your sister's nerves a lot easier. Okay, so just to show, we've sewed at top and bottom. So you can see here where I've sewn it. You look on this side, kind of look from the side. I've sewn it together, top and bottom. That's awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it right side out. And yet again, here's when I say leave as much of that pocket open as you can because you're fitting a whole darn bag. And this is why I say a vinyl bag is not your friend for this bag. As you can see, fitting it all through that little pocket in the exterior. So a little bit at a time. It actually helps to pull some. 33 and 33, if it wasn't twins, would have been interesting. I had some friends growing up who were just barely over a year apart. And I was like, how? Why? I would have liked to have more, just wasn't physically able. So as you can see, I'm sitting here struggling, pushing it all the way through. And we are getting it to go through. Take some time. And okay. Of course, now I find little threads. As you see, the little threads that go through when you put things together. So that's what I go through and double check. Trim a little bit more. That's an interesting way to put it. I would have liked to had twins. I think it would have been nice thing. They run in my family, but all right. So we have turned everything right side out. Now I still have my pocket out, so I'll do it exactly like I did the last one. I'm apparently having my hair sticking straight up. That just made it worse. That's cool. I wish I had more nieces and nephews. But just to show you how much of my pocket I leave open, just enough to go around the corner to form the nice pocket so I have my seam allowance. I'm going to go ahead and pin that closed. And then double check everything one more time before I actually close them up. Y'all have a lot of babies in y'all's family at one time. Wow, that's a lot of twins. I think I probably would have said stop after two, but that's me. So we have our pocket. And if you want to see how flush inside fits with actually sewing them together, you see it sits inside there very flush. So now that everything is good, we're going to sew this closed. I'm not going to bother switching y'all back over real quick just for this little eighth of an inch seam allowance across the pocket, because then I can show you the completed bag. Ah, well, that makes a little more sense. If this is nowadays, that'd be a little different. My mom is one of 7 kids, so I do understand. I would have liked to had 3 or 4, but just wasn't in the cards, so we didn't even actually think the second one was gonna happen until it happened. So, okay, so we have our exterior pocket all tucked in now. So now it is completely done. On the inside, we'll zip it up. Okay. And we have our webbing. And there's the completed bag. There's the widget messenger bag. Let me move back a little bit so y'all can see it a little better. Yeah, I'm excited to use it. This is a fun bag, especially the fact that it says open that front pocket and it opens down really close and you have your pin pockets. And like I said, you can put your cell phone or your like um checkbooks if in my case. But we have our lovely R2D2. Okay. So do y'all want to see the? New pattern coming. Yeah, I like the R2D2 on the inside as well. See, there's a reason to hang out with me on these so you get to see it first. So just to show you, this is the beach bum bag. When I say it's big, it's big. So got a vinyl bottom. I've got canvas. This is cotton canvas, but I've made them with waterproof canvas too. This is it snaps closed, just using cam snaps. And then the inside, we have two slip pockets, and I have added an optional zipper pocket. Just some, thank you. I said, and this is my new pattern. This is called Beach Bum Bag. It will come out next month, and this is very beginner friendly. It's just like I said, if I stand up, you can see how big it is on me. Pretty good size. I can show you one that I have done. Hold on. That is completely waterproof canvas inside and out. Okay. So here is another one. You can't tell I'm nerdy at all. Yeah. So this one is just very plain on the inside. The pocket. I like that pop of color. But this one is made out of waterproof canvas, so it's a lot stiffer. This is more slouchier because it's cotton canvas. Yes, they are big, but they hold a whole lot. Well, this came from Geek Garden Fabrics. This fabric, this is one of my favorite prints. I have it in cotton lycra. I actually have a shirt using the same panel. Um, the stained glass inside is their water stained glass. And I love it. This is one of my favorite prints. Probably before the launch, I am probably going to make a clear version of this as well. And I will have a tutorial for the clear version of this as well. So, y'all make me feel young when saying my girls are 17 and 8. So, but are there any questions? But y'all got the sneak peek about how big there will be, and I'll release a probably an add-on to how you change it up for clear. It will be a little different. Oh, it's a huge bag. It's great for beach stuff. I actually was able to fit about 30 library books in one. Um, but yeah, it will be available, and then I will have a tutorial. It'll be available July 10th, and it will have a tutorial on the YouTube. I will start doing a live tutorial the following Wednesday. That's the plan, anyways. Um, providing nothing else happens. But it's a pretty simple bag. It doesn't take a long time to put together. But I will see y'all later, and I hope y'all have a good night, and I will see y'all next week.